Curse you, Bayle! Elden Ring is a game full of some of the best boss fights ever designed, and some of the best music from the Soulsborne series happens to be in this game. When Shadow of the Erdtree dropped in summer 2024, there was one fight that every fan raved about: Bayle the Dread. The theme that accompanies this battle might be the best in the whole game. It underscores an underdog revenge tale between Egon the Drake Warrior and Bayle the Dread. It's almost like a Moby Dick retelling for the world of the lands between. Bayle the Dread's theme is the sound of revenge, and today we'll be taking a look at how this piece perfectly encapsulates the characters, their motivations, and their story. We'll be breaking down instrumentation, orchestration, melodic motifs, and dynamics in order to highlight what makes this underscore to Elden Ring's best fight so great. In the last video, we talked about the melodic complexity of Pinwheel's theme from Dark Souls. It used a strange scale, and the harmony was extremely dissonant, but Bayle's theme is quite the opposite. Phase 1 of the battle puts us firmly in C minor. The harmony is actually very functional, and we hear a lot of major 5 to minor 1. The major 5 chord, which is G major, will imply the harmonic minor scale. This gives us a really strong pull from the 5 chord because of the half-step motion of the leading tone that leads us to the root. We're going to be hearing this all over the place in this theme, so keep that in mind for later. The intro gives us a taste of motifs to come. Violas come in with a descending staccato line that firmly establishes the 6/8 time signature. Now, a viola is the quick 6/8 makes the theme feel like a dance between Egon and Bayle. 6/8 is a compound meter, which means we feel it in 2 even groups of 3/8 notes. We'll be coming back to this concept as well in a little bit. Violins soar over the top of everything else with a flurry of 16th notes and an ostinato that will make multiple appearances throughout. Immediately we see that harmonic minor tonality play out as the violins flutter between C and B natural. That minor second interval is super dissonant, and the repetition adds to the building tension. Supported by the violas, we hear cellos fight for the spotlight with its own incredibly fast and energetic counter line. I now present to you our 2 characters, Egon, represented by the violins, the little guy, the underdog, the one who recruited you for his quest.
Grant me this one wish. Take this finger, my finger. Scale the jagged peak, face Bayle the Dread, and when you do, summon me. Summon my soul.
And Bayle the Dread, represented by cellos, large, lumbering, but furious and ready to finish the fight for good. Both the cello and the violin have a role that take over the main melody at times during the piece as solo instruments, and you'll see these battle back and forth as we go through the piece. Now, as we approach the next section, we need to bring up a major concept that makes this piece work so well, and that's orchestration. Orchestration is the act of assigning different instruments to different parts. In an orchestra, we usually find sections consisting of strings, woodwinds, brass, and percussion. Each section has its own family of instruments that cover a wide range. These sections themselves can act in their own roles of either carrying and supporting the melody or outlining the harmony. We see this very clearly when the strings completely take over here. Violins and cellos bring back that minor second ostinato, and the first violins fly over the top to bring excitement and energy into the mix as we move into the next section. The melodic baton gets passed to the low brass, and we get one of the coolest rhythmic interactions in Phase 1. Very briefly, the whole orchestra shifts to a 3/4 to emphasize the brass melody. Brass is often associated with a heroic quality, as we see in themes like Superman or Indiana Jones. This fanfare is minor though, so there's kind of a juxtaposition there. It's still heroic, but almost filled with fear. The ensemble crashes together in a sequence that emphasizes that feeling. All of the chords here are parallel minor chords, and it actually includes the only appearance of the minor 5 chord. That feels almost more wistful and regretful. But we then regain our resolve by ending the phrase hanging on a 5 sus4 to a 5 chord before leading into our first dynamic low point. We see Bayle the cello's first standout moment here. With some light assistance from the rest of the string section, we see that same fear shine through with almost what sounds like a direct quote of Ave Maria. This melodic structure keeps things minor, walking up to the flat 3 before coming back down linearly. The full orchestra comes back in with Egon the violin poking through with his own melody. The melody emphasizes the minor third again, giving that fearful sort of vibe. We see the same orchestration technique with the brass backing Egon up. The high brass and low brass have a nice call and response every 3 beats, almost evoking the flight of the dragon in this duel. As Phase 1 reaches its conclusion, the cellos and bass form a melodic trio. The cello leaves us on an unstable point, which is the second of the scale. Emphasizing this particular scale degree keeps things sort of hanging. We don't know where this is going, but it's not looking good for Bayle. One thing that Elden Ring introduced as a regular thing for its major bosses is phase transitions. Let's check out what the music does to really bring it home. In Phase 2, we move solidly to A minor territory, beginning with a big A minor chord with a natural 11 that slowly fades in. A big brass fanfare kicks things off fully. This marks the moment of Bayle's transformation as he sprouts wings of fiery lightning and soars through the air. The descending viola line from the beginning makes a reappearance as well. The downward chromatic motion almost gives the feeling of freefall. The intro motif gets another appearance here as the choir, high strings, and high brass all come together for the other coolest interaction with the rhythm in this theme. We get get this push and pull between the top line outlining 6-4 and the supporting strings that still outline the established 6-8. This battle of pulses builds up a ton of tension. Additionally, the staccato strings feel threatening. It's an association we know all too well from pieces like that shower scene in Psycho. Also, listen to that wide vibrato on the trumpets, and I bet you could imagine something similar in a Clint Eastwood film right before a duel. Egon the violin gets another moment to shine, but in his low range this time. Low strings serve as the engine to keep the rhythm moving, and we see that old minor second ostinato in the high strings. This time it gets developed and moved up the scale in an ascending sequence. Another orchestration baton pass gives the brass the melody for the first time in a while. This time we're emphasizing the fifth of the A minor chord, hitting neighbor tones outside the chord while sticking with the chord tones as the harmony changes. The entire ensemble comes to a halt to let Bayle the cello catch his breath. The melody that the cello takes on is much more angular, featuring wide intervallic leaps, all outlining the A harmonic minor scale. The cello is played lyrically and softly, almost out of time, as if Bayle is on his last leg. The final section explodes for the big finish. Everyone in the orchestra, including the choir, is turned up to 11. It's almost as if the choir is a stand-in for us, all the tarnished that Bayle has terrorized, as we cheer on Egon to deliver the final blows and end his reign for good. This section feels so huge because of the orchestra moving as one big unit, using mostly parallel motion. This is when two or more instruments move in a similar way in both the rhythm and pitch direction. This contrasts hugely with the more conversational approach to the orchestration we've seen for previous parts. Instead of one part taking the melody and one part supporting, everyone in the orchestra kind of has a hybrid of both roles. We then get two Beethoven-like 5-to-1 cadences to bring us to our final moments. Egon the violin and Bayle the cello let out their final breaths in a unison duet. Bayle is defeated, Egon's mission is complete, and he can finally rest. This piece nails the perfect balance between spectacle and narrative significance. You can hear the conflict between Bayle and Egon. You can hear their fear, their anger, their thirst for revenge. It manages to feel huge, tragic, and heroic all at once, and perfectly underscores the best fight in all of Elden Ring. Transcriptions are available in the description, and if you have a piece of music from a game or film that you want to see broken down, leave a comment. Thanks for watching.